Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday Wisdom Call. Today is October the 10th, 10/10. It's called a power day of some sort. So I'm kind of excited about that. My name is Marty Forrest. My website is Hello Extraordinary Life. I am offering a 6-week course. Begins this Saturday. So check it out on the website. Email me, message me on Facebook. Get more information. Begins Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. Still time to register. And go to the website. On the landing page, you can pick up your free guide, 3 Steps to Reprogramming Your Negative Self-Talk. And if a course with more than one person is not for you, I also do one-on-one coaching. So you can check out that. Contact me through the website. Go to the Contact Me page or the coaching page and fill that out, and we can have a casual conversation, checking out where you are right now and if this is the right time for you. And let's see, this today is about, I've been pondering and considering and listening to some people around me and myself about how much we worry and how our negative self-talk, or just our self-talk, may not even be negative, just our self-talk, it may not be helping us to get to where we want to be, or having us feel good about ourselves. They're just our words that they may be neutral words in meaning, but we've given them a lot of different meaning that creates a charge around them. So some days I wake up and I have this fear, and it'll kick in as soon as I wake up in the morning, and I usually wake up around 5, sometimes 6, but it's early, it's dark, and I'm like, why am I awake? And then the brain kicks in, because I'm kind of still in that in-between, it'll kick into some fear thing going on around money or all the things I have to do, and very counterproductive. And further than that, what I was really looking at is, after a conversation with someone who, that's like the primary state of her mind is a fear place and always worrying about something. And I don't live in that space personally anymore, but it still shows up. So I'm pondering this, and I'm looking at how the evidence in my whole life is, and every stitch of evidence has always shown me that it turns out okay, no matter how much I've worried about it or how afraid I was of something that was going to happen. And before I started the recording, I was sharing about I'm going on a cruise in December with my mom and my aunt and uncle. And my aunt and uncle, I pray a lot when I'm around them, because sometimes I have a hard time being around them. And I realized after a couple of comments I had made, I'm future tripping it, first of all, about how it might be with them. And then I realized that I will live into that if I stay in that space. If I keep saying this thing about how they are and how I've experienced them previously. And I realized, let me change my thought about them and that space I hold around them, because I could live into that just as easily. Which would I prefer? Which makes me feel better? Well, of course, the lighter space of we could have a good time. It could be really fun. We may not have to spend the whole time together. There's lots to do. So no matter how much I have spent, no matter how much I've seen anybody worry, catastrophize, whatever it is that we do to ourselves, it may not always be what I wanted or thought I should have or how it should be, but it always turned out better than I could have controlled it, even if I couldn't see it right away. We live in a culture that cultivates that always needing more. There's always a worry. I just popped on the drug commercials about some disorder or some disease, and go tell your doctor. There's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of generating that place of, I had this when I was a kid, which means I'm susceptible to this. I don't know if that's actually true or not. However, I don't need to live in the fear that it might happen and then keep that worry going. One of my calls, I called it the app that runs in the background. Because no matter what's in the forefront, if there's something that's out of sync in my world, there's an app that will run in my background that's constantly worrying about my dad when he was sick, or my dog had a heart tumor attached to his heart. So those things are always running in the background. Well, quite frankly, we don't know what the future holds. All we know is right here, right now. And when I'm living into that future and I'm worrying about what might happen, I'm actually creating that. You're actually creating that. Even if it's not true, my perspective, your perspective, will create it through my view of it. And then I go around looking for the things or generating in my mind. So something that happened, I said I wasn't going to talk about this. I got a text from my mom. She was sending me a text about this cruise. So I know I'm moved to talk about it because it's so appropriate for this. And she's telling me the cost, and then there's a final comment that says, no hurry. And I went, what? I'm under the impression that this is part of my Christmas present, as I get to go on a cruise. Well, what I made it mean, because I misinterpreted, let me be very clear here, I misinterpreted the text. She was forwarding a text from the person that booked the trip. That's it. Information only. I went off on a head trip, making it mean that she's asking me to pay for half of it, and the whole gamut of emotions went nuts in my worry and my fear, my previous experience. All these things just went crazy in my head. And how am I going to pay for that? I'm not going to go if I have to pay for that. I mean, it was just this craziness in my brain because I misinterpreted it. It said right on it from this person, I didn't put it together when I read it, that it was all from that person, had nothing to do with me. You see how our interpretation of something, I'm looking for something because I'm afraid of I don't have enough money and how am I going to pay for this trip? I'm already looking for something. And then making it mean what I'm looking for. How do we not do that? How do we get into that flow and trust that the universe has our back? The people in our life, if we have good, trustworthy people, have our back. They want the best for us too. We want the best for us. How do we stop this cycle? Because it's in our brain, it's grooved in our brain in the neural pathways, and we immediately go there because that's the programming. That's where our brain trips to. I know a few people who don't go there right away because either they had a different upbringing or their makeup is just different than mine and how they respond to life. Many of us, though, we're geared to that. So our brain immediately goes to that negative place. I know there's some scientific thing I read about. I can't remember what it is, though, but it tells us that. It immediately goes to that negative. And our job now is to stop that, disrupt the pattern. How do we do that? It takes vigilance for me. That's my experience. It takes commitment and discipline to pay attention. It takes being mindful. It also takes me sometimes shifting my perspective. This works for certain things. When I had a plan on my day and it wasn't going, there was a time I would have gotten just upset and went, well, what am I supposed to do now? I had all these things and I'm rigid about my plan and it didn't go that way. Now today I can go, oh, well, I'm going to just flow with it and I'm going to see how it all works out instead of thinking that I have to control how it works out. Often we get into that Oh, I'm thinking of someone that I know really well, that when we are going to do something new, we're going to take a risk and we're going to do something different, and people might be seeing us and looking at us and knowing us, and we mind fuck ourselves over and over and over about what they're going to think. What will they like us? Is it the right place? What if I fail? What, just a whole thing. And then we get stuck in that groove, right? There's that groove in our brain. We just get stuck in it. We call it the rat wheel. Yet there has to be a place where we stick something in the spoke and get off. Sometimes it's a choice. Sometimes once we're in it, we're already in it, and it's very difficult to get out of it. So do something different. When I get into my head trip, I did that with that text. I was just in my head and just upset, and I finally went, I need to leave my house and go do something else where I can focus on something else. So I did. I left my house, and I went to Costco, ran some errands, so I could get out of my own headspace and do something else that's disrupting the pattern, disrupting that thought. Sometimes it's, some people exercise, some people cry, some people scream. It's something that disrupts the pattern. And then we keep doing that, and the pattern gets shorter and shorter in our brain until we suddenly are on this new path. And we go, oh, there's that thought. There's that thing I used to do. Let's go over there now. Some things are super easy to do that if you have a plan, because you know that's where you go. If I know something triggers me, or if I know that putting something out in an email for everyone to see, will they like me? What are they going to think about it? But put something in place first, because I know that's my trigger, that I have a plan to go to that new thing that I'm putting into place. So there was something that somebody told me about that, about if I know my husband triggers me when he laughs and I think it's personal, right? I know that's my trigger. It's a dad thing. I know that when he does that, I get triggered. What can I put in place? If you know you're triggered, what can you put in place to redirect? What I put in place with him was, first of all, he's not my dad. And second of all, he would never do anything to hurt me, not intentionally. See, there's things I tell myself. And then I can do something else to make it light for myself. If there's something that, I've told many, many people this one, to make it lighter. If you are in a relationship with someone and you have a conversation and negotiate, what's your cue word? If this person I'm in a relationship with does something that triggers me, and I know it triggers me, if he's, I can't even think of anything specific right now, but we come up together with a cue word that says, time out, or, I know it. My second husband, he used to come home and complain. He didn't like his job, he didn't like his life, and he'd come home and he'd be complaining and complaining and complaining, and I'd go, hey, dude, where's that Bitchers Anonymous club? And he'd look at me, and I'd grin, and he'd go, ugh. So I just made it a more of a light thing to bring to mind that, hey, you're kind of being a turd right now. And then I'd go leave him alone. And then he would figure out that, I'm kind of being a turd right now. And he'd go take care of himself and come around when he was in a better space. So sometimes we negotiate that with the other person, but it helps us to get into a different flow than the one that we go go on out of habit. That's what I'm trying to say. Because when we know the trigger, we're habitually down the path. And then we start looking at what the trigger is. We can make different choices. When our plans get disrupted, how can I make it different for myself? How do I learn how to get into the flow and trust that, oh, well, maybe I'm not supposed to do that thing right now. Sometimes it's that simple. I had an order I want things to go in, and if they don't go that way, I think, well, this is what's being presented to me right now, and this is what needs to be taken care of. Instead of being mad and beating myself up because it didn't go the way I thought it should. It's examining ourselves to know what triggers us, maybe what doesn't trigger us. If there's something that doesn't trigger us, why not? What works about that thing that does not trigger us, and how can we transfer that over to what does? How do we overlay and go, oh, well, that thing doesn't really trigger me. I can just roll with it. How do I apply that over here to the thing that does trigger me? That sometimes works really well. Regardless, anything that helps me get out of that pattern of making me bad and wrong, worrying, catastrophizing, helps me to get more in the flow of my life. Even when it's uncomfortable. It's learning. And when we're learning new things, it's uncomfortable. It's just a fact. It's new. It's unfamiliar. And then we, somewhere in there, sometimes learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable. What's the saying? I'll end with this, life begins at the end of our comfort zone, on the outside of it, where we stretch and we grow and we evolve. Otherwise, we just stay the same. All right, I've talked a while. I have 9:30 straight down. How was that? Anything apply? Anything the good that you got out of that?
I did, because as you know me, that everything you just talked about, for me, it's like, oh, yep, that's me. Every day I worry about something. And it's usually most of the day I'm worrying about something and playing that anxiety, catastrophizing, whatever, in my head over and over and over. And one of the things that my mom actually said to me a few weeks back was, she said, I was worrying about something and dwelling on something, and she just said, you just have to let go. And so for me, when I catch myself starting to worry about whatever is going on at that moment, I have to just mentally be mindful and say, okay, stop, and just let go. So it's trying to rewire what I've been doing for my entire life is a definite challenge. But yeah, it's a definite challenge. In fact, right now, just this whole call has brought up all those feelings of anxiety that I try to ignore and squish all the time. So I'm in an uncomfortable place right now, but that's okay.
It is. It's a good place to be, actually. And it takes, the thing I've learned over the years of doing this is it takes time. It's time and practice. Because it is, like you said, it's that I've been doing this my whole life. And that groove is well grooved in your brain. So you're doing the stop disrupts it.
Mm-hmm.
I asked one time someone who knows more science than I do, way more science than I do, so if we reprogram and we create these new thoughts and we're living that and we're living in that comfortable, safe, trusted place, does the old pathway go away? Or in the brain, it creates that path. Does it become ungrooved? And the answer was no. It becomes unused. Like a road. We have roads that are unused now, and we have a new road. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, and that's where I'll default, and that's where you default. When we get out of the new path, we might revisit that once in a while, the old one.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, knowing you all these years, I think you've done some amazing transforming of that. Time and practice.
Yes, very uncomfortable though.
It is. Yes, it is.